hallowed halls of St. Paul's Cathedral, a chilling whisper echoes through the whispering gallery. The saint's blood will spill at evensong. Hercule Poirot, the master detective, steps into a web of secrets, where a monk lies dead, a sacred vial vanishes, and a scent of lavender betrays a killer. Was it the nervous organist, driven by faith, the wealthy benefactor, hiding dark dealings, or the sharp-tongued widow, guarding a scandal? As clues unravel, cryptic notes, hidden ledgers, a cloaked figure, Poirot's gray cells uncover a truth as shocking as the cathedral's dome. In this deadly game of devotion and deceit, only one question remains. Who dared to spill blood in the house of God? Chapter 1. The Echoes of the Dome. The great dome of St. Paul's Cathedral loomed above the London skyline, its silhouette a silent sentinel against the gray October sky of 1925. Hercule Poirot, his patent leather shoes gleaming despite the damp cobblestones, ascended the cathedral steps with the precision of a metronome. His neatly waxed mustache twitched as he inhaled the crisp air, tinged with the faint scent of coal smoke and sanctity. At his side, Captain Arthur Hastings, ever the faithful companion, adjusted his scarf and remarked, "I say, Poirot, it's not every day you're summoned to a cathedral. What's this all about?" Poirot's green eyes glinted with curiosity. "Mon ami, it is the unusual that calls to Hercule Poirot. Canon Hargreaves has requested my presence, and when a man of the cloth speaks of whispers that disturb the sacred, one listens." Inside, the cathedral's vast nave swallowed the sounds of their footsteps, the air heavy with the weight of centuries. Canon Edmund Hargreaves, a wiry man with silver hair and an anxious brow, awaited them near the altar. His cassock fluttered as he hurried forward, his voice low. "Monsieur Poirot, I am most grateful. We are plagued by a peculiar matter. Whispers, you see, in the whispering gallery. Not mere echoes, but words, sinister words, heard by several of the congregation." Poirot tilted his head, his interest piqued. "And these whispers, what do they say?" The canon glanced about as if the stone saints might overhear. "They speak of a crime. The saint's blood will spill at evensong. I fear it is no jest." Hastings frowned. "Sounds like a prank, Canon? Boys from the choir, perhaps?" "No, Captain," Hargreaves replied, his voice trembling. "The gallery's acoustics are remarkable, yes, but these words were distinct, heard by reliable witnesses. I implore you, Monsieur Poirot, to investigate before something dreadful occurs." Poirot nodded, his mind already arranging the facts like pieces on a chessboard. "Introduce me, if you please, to those who frequent this sacred place. I must observe the players in this mystery." The canon led them through the cathedral, its arches soaring like the ribs of some great stone beast. First, they met Miss Clara Wren, the young organist, her delicate hands folded nervously as she stood beside the towering organ. Her auburn hair was pinned tightly, but her gray eyes darted with unease. "I heard nothing myself, Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice soft as a hymn. "But the gallery's whispers are strange. Sound travels where it should not." Next was Mr. Lionel Drake, a portly benefactor whose tailored suit strained slightly at the seams. His booming voice filled the nave as he spoke of his generous donations to the cathedral's restoration. "A fine institution, St. Paul's. I'd not see it marred by nonsense about whispers," he declared, though his smile faltered under Poirot's scrutiny. Mrs. Evelyn Marwood, a widow with a sharp jaw and sharper tongue, stood near the choir stalls, her black dress severe against the cathedral's golden stone. "Whispers? Poppycock," she snapped. "But if there's mischief, I'd wager it's that monk, Brother Thomas, stirring trouble. He's always poking into things that don't concern him." Brother Thomas, the final introduction, was a thin, bespectacled man in a monk's habit, his fingers stained with ink from cataloguing relics. He seemed startled by Poirot's presence, muttering about his duties in the crypt. "The relics are my charge," he said, avoiding eye contact. "I know nothing of whispers." Poirot's gaze lingered on each, noting the flicker of Clara's eyes, the sheen of sweat on Lionel's brow, the venom in Evelyn's tone, and Thomas's trembling hands. "Très intéressant," he murmured to Hastings. "The cathedral, it is a stage, and these are its actors. But what is the drama?" That evening, as the choir's voices rose in evensong, the cathedral glowed with candlelight, the air thick with incense. Poirot sat in a pew, his hands folded neatly, his mind alert. The service proceeded solemnly, until a piercing scream shattered the final notes of the anthem. The congregation froze, and Canon Hargreaves rushed toward the crypt stairs, Poirot and Hastings close behind. In the shadowy crypt, lit only by flickering lamps, Brother Thomas lay sprawled on the stone floor, his habit soaked with blood. A ceremonial dagger, its blade etched with crosses, protruded from his chest. The congregation gasped, and Clara, standing at the crypt's entrance, clutched her hymn book, her face pale as marble. Lionel Drake mopped his forehead with a handkerchief, while Evelyn Marwood's lips curled in a faint, unreadable smile. Poirot knelt beside the body, his gloved fingers tracing the air above the wound. "Mon Dieu," he whispered. "The saint's blood has indeed spilled, but it is not the relic they meant. The curtain has risen, Hastings, and the mystery of St. Paul's begins." Chapter 2. The Scene of the Crime. The crypt of St. Paul's Cathedral lay beneath the soaring nave like a secret kept by stone, its air chill and heavy with the must of centuries. Hercule Poirot descended the narrow spiral staircase, his polished shoes clicking with deliberate rhythm, as if to assert order in the face of chaos. Captain Hastings followed, his face pale in the flickering light of the wall sconces. The scream that had shattered the evensong still echoed in their ears, and now, as they reached the crypt's flagged floor, the grim tableau awaited them. Brother Thomas, sprawled lifeless, his monk's habit a sodden shroud of crimson. A ceremonial dagger, its blade engraved with sacred crosses, protruded from his chest, glinting cruelly under the lamplight. Inspector Japp, summoned with his usual brisk efficiency, was already barking orders to a pair of constables cordoning off the scene. His weathered face creased as he spotted Poirot. "Well, well, Poirot, you've a knack for turning up where there's trouble. A nasty business, this. Robbery, I'd wager. Look here." He gestured to a velvet-lined niche in the crypt wall, where a small glass vial, reputed to contain a saint's blood, should have rested. The niche was empty, its velvet cushion askew. Poirot's green eyes narrowed as he knelt beside the body, his gloved hands hovering like a maestro's over an orchestra. "Robbery, you say, mon ami? Perhaps, but the stage is set with too much care for so simple a plot." He examined the dagger, noting its ornate silver hilt, pristine despite the blood pooling beneath Toma. "No fingerprints, I observe. The handle, it is wiped clean, n'est-ce pas? This is not the work of a panicked thief." Hastings, peering over Poirot's shoulder, shuddered. "Good Lord, Poirot, Who'd do such a thing in a cathedral? And that dagger, it's one of the relics, isn't it? Précisément, Poirot murmured. A weapon of ceremony, not of convenience, and yet it finds itself here, in the heart of a man. His gaze swept the crypt, its low, vaulted ceiling and shadowed alcoves heavy with history. A faint scent caught his attention, not the expected damp stone or wax, but something delicate, floral. Hastings, do you smell it? Lavender, no? A curious note in this place of death. Japp snorted, scribbling in his notebook. Lavender? You and your fancies, Poirot. I'm more concerned with that missing vial. Worth a pretty penny to the right collector, I'll bet. Brother Thomas must have caught the thief red-handed. Poirot rose, brushing his knees with fastidious care. The vial, yes, it is gone. But why steal a relic of questionable authenticity, only to leave the body so prominently displayed? Non-inspector, this is a performance, and we must meet the actors. The crypt's entrance was crowded with the cathedral's denizens, their faces a gallery of shock and suspicion. Canon Hargreaves wrung his hands, his silver hair disheveled. "This is a desecration," he whispered. "Brother Thomas was devout, devoted to the relics. Who could do this?" Poirot turned to Miss Clara Wren, the organist who stood clutching her hymn book, her knuckles white. "Mademoiselle Wren, you were at the organ during Evensong, oui? Did you hear or see anything unusual?" Clara's gray eyes flickered, avoiding his gaze. I was playing, Monsieur Poirot. The organ is loud, you understand? I heard nothing until the scream." Her voice trembled, but Poirot noted the slight hesitation, as if she were reciting a rehearsed line. "And you, Monsieur Drake?" Poirot pivoted to Lionel Drake, the benefactor, whose florid face glistened with sweat despite the crypt's chill. "Where were you when the scream was heard?" Drake adjusted his tie, his jovial demeanor strained. "In the nave, near the west door. I stepped out for a moment. Fresh air, you know. Came running when I heard the commotion." His eyes darted to the empty niche, and Poirot marked the flicker of unease. Mrs. Evelyn Marwood stood apart, her black dress stark against the pale stone. Her lips curled in a faint, disdainful smile as she met Poirot's scrutiny. "Don't look at me, Monsieur Poirot. I was in the choir stalls, listening to the service. Brother Thomas was a meddler, always sniffing about where he wasn't wanted. Perhaps he meddled once too often." Poirot's mustache twitched. "A meddler, madame? And what, pray, did he meddle in?" Evelyn's eyes hardened. "Ask around. He had a way of making enemies, poking into private matters. But I've no blood on my hands." She turned away, her lavender-scented perfume lingering in the air. Poirot's mind whirred, cataloging each response. The lavender scent, so out of place, tugged at his thoughts. Was it coincidence that Evelyn's perfume matched the crypt's faint aroma? Or was it a clue planted with care? He addressed the group. "Mes amis, no one leaves the cathedral until Inspector Japp has taken statements. The truth, it hides in the shadows, but Hercule Poirot will bring it to light." As Japp began questioning the onlookers, Poirot examined the crypt further. The floor was scuffed near the body, suggesting a brief struggle, but no other relics were disturbed. A small wooden box, tucked in an alcove, caught his eye. It contained papers, Thomas's notes on the relics, detailing the vial's history. One entry stood out. "The saint's blood, a relic of power, coveted by those who believe." Poirot tucked the note into his pocket, his mind racing. Hastings, hovering nearby, whispered, "What do you make of it, Poirot? Clara's nervous as a cat, Drake's sweating buckets, and that Marwood woman's cold as ice. Any of them could have done it." Poirot shook his head. "Patience, Hastings. The heart of the matter lies not in what is seen, but in what is not. The vial is gone, yet the dagger remains. The lavender scent is present, yet its source is uncertain. These are threads, and we must weave them carefully." Japp rejoined them, his notebook filled. "Right, Poirot. I've got alibis, but they're flimsy. Clara says she was at the organ, but no one saw her there the whole time. Drake claims he was outside, but the verger didn't see him leave. And Mrs. Marwood, well, she's got no one to vouch for her in the choir stalls. I'm betting on the vial being the key. Some black market deal, mark my words." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Perhaps, Inspector, but consider, a thief takes the vial and flees, yet our murderer stays to stage this scene. Why? To distract us perhaps from a deeper motive. We must look beyond the obvious, to the heart of St. Paul's itself." As the constables covered Brother Thomas's body, Poirot lingered, his gaze fixed on the empty niche, the whispers of the gallery, the blood of a saint, the scent of lavender. These were not random notes, but parts of a symphony, one he was determined to conduct. "Come, Hastings," he said, ascending the stairs. "The crypt has spoken, but the cathedral has more to say. We shall listen, and we shall understand." Chapter 3. The Whispering Gallery. The Whispering Gallery of St. Paul's Cathedral, perched high within the dome, was a marvel of acoustics and architecture, its curved walls a perfect circle of stone that carried sound with uncanny clarity. Hercule Poirot ascended the winding staircase, his breath steady despite the climb, his mind as sharp as the echo of his footsteps. Captain Hastings trailed behind, puffing slightly, his curiosity undimmed. "I say, Poirot, this place gives me the shivers. Whispers traveling round the walls. Eerie, isn't it?" Poirot's moustache twitched with a faint smile. "Eerie, mon ami? Non, it is precise. Sound follows the curve of the wall, as truth follows the curve of logic. Here we shall test the whispers that began this affair." The gallery was a narrow ledge encircling the dome's interior, its balustrade overlooking the distant nave below, where the evensong's aftermath lingered in murmured prayers. Poirot leaned close to the wall, his voice a soft murmur. "Hastings, stand opposite, s'il vous plaît. Listen." Hastings positioned himself across the gallery, some 30 feet away, and Poirot whispered, "The saint's blood will spill." The words traveled with crystalline clarity, as if Poirot stood beside him. Hastings started. "Good heavens, Poirot, it's like you're right in my ear. Anyone could have overheard that threat then." "Précisément," Poirot replied, rejoining him. "The gallery, it is a stage where secrets are betrayed by sound. But who spoke the words, and who listened? That is the question." Canon Hargreaves joined them, his face etched with worry. "Monsieur Poirot, this gallery has always been a wonder, but now it feels cursed. Brother Thomas was researching the relics, particularly the vial of saint's blood. He believed it held powers, miraculous ones. Could that be why he was killed?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "A relic of power, you say? Tell me, Canon, who else knew of Thomas's work?" Hargreaves hesitated. Clara Wren assisted him occasionally, transcribing his notes. Mr. Drake, as a benefactor, was keen on the relic's preservation. And Mrs. Marwood, she scoffed at their sanctity, but was often in the crypt, arguing with Thomas. Poirot nodded, filing each detail in his mental cabinet. And the vial, it was kept in the crypt, oui? Yet it is gone, and Thomas is dead. A curious coincidence. As they descended, Poirot's attention was caught by Mr. Gibbs, the groundskeeper, sweeping the nave's floor with a broom as old as the cathedral itself. Gibbs, a wiry man with a weathered face, paused at Poirot's approach. "Beggin' your pardon, sir, but I heard you was looking into the murder. I saw something odd last night, a cloaked figure moving quick near the crypt stairs before evensong. Couldn't see their face, mind." Poirot's gaze sharpened. "A cloaked figure, you say? At what hour?" "About an hour before the service," Gibbs replied, scratching his chin. "Thought it was one of the clergy at first, but they moved sneaky-like." "Merci, Monsieur Gibbs. You have been most helpful." Poirot turned to Hastings, his voice low. "A cloaked figure, Hastings, a shadow in the cathedral's light. We must discover who casts it." Back in the nave, Poirot observed the suspects, now scattered among the pews, their faces masks of grief or calculation. Clara Wren sat alone, her fingers tracing the edge of her hymn book, her lips moving silently, as if in prayer. Lionel Drake, mopping his brow, conversed with a constable, his gestures too emphatic. Evelyn Marwood stood near a pillar, her eyes scanning the crowd with a predator's calm. Poirot approached Clara first, his manner gentle. "Mademoiselle, you knew Brother Thomas's work. Did he speak of enemies or of the vial's significance?" Clara's hands trembled. "He was secretive, Monsieur Poirot. He said the vial was more than a relic, that it drew those who sought power. I thought he was fanciful." Her voice broke, and she looked away, but Poirot noted the tension in her shoulders. Next, he questioned Drake, whose joviality had worn thin. "Enemies? Thomas? Ha! The man was a monk, not a conspirator. I fund the cathedral's upkeep, relics included, but I don't meddle in their nonsense." Yet his eyes flicked toward the crypt stairs, betraying unease. Evelyn, when approached, was dismissive. Thomas was a fool, chasing myths about that vial. If someone killed him for it, they're as foolish as he was. Her tone was sharp, but Poirot caught a fleeting glance toward Clara, laced with something like contempt. As evening deepened, Poirot retreated to a quiet corner of the cathedral, his mind a whirl of fragments. The gallery's whispers, the cloaked figure, the missing vial, the lavender scent from the crypt. "Hastings," he said, "the motive is not yet clear, but it is not simple theft. The vial's absence is a distraction, perhaps, from a deeper wound. Thomas knew something worth killing for." Hastings frowned. "But what? The vial's supposed to be holy, but it's just old blood, isn't it? Who'd kill for that?" Poirot's fingers steepled. "Faith, greed, fear. These are powerful forces, mon ami. The vial may be a symbol, not the prize. We must look to the hearts of those who walk these sacred halls." As they left the cathedral, the dome loomed above, its whispers silent but heavy with secrets. Poirot's gray cells hummed, piecing together the puzzle. The gallery had spoken, but the truth lay in the shadows below, waiting to be unveiled. Chapter 4. Secrets in the Choir. The choir stalls of St. Paul's Cathedral, carved from dark oak and polished by centuries of reverence, stood in solemn rows beneath the cathedral's towering arches. The morning light filtered through stained glass, casting jewel-like patterns across the stone floor, yet the air held a tension that no hymn could dispel. Hercule Poirot, his cane tapping softly, entered the chancel to observe a choir rehearsal, his sharp eyes scanning the figures assembled there. Captain Hastings at his side whispered, "Poirot, what are we doing here? Surely the murderer's not singing psalms while Jap's on the case." Poirot's lips curved faintly. "Mon ami, the choir is a microcosm of the cathedral's soul. Here voices blend, but secrets clash. We shall listen not only to the music, but to the silences between the notes." The rehearsal was underway, the choir's voices rising in a haunting rendition of Miserere mei, Deus. Miss Clara Wren sat at the organ, her slender fingers coaxing mournful chords from the instrument, though Poirot noted a faltering rhythm, as if her thoughts were elsewhere. Mr. Lionel Drake, a self-proclaimed patron of the choir, stood near the conductor, his booming voice dominating the tenors, but lacking conviction. Mrs. Evelyn Marwood, no longer a chorister but a frequent observer, lingered at the edge of the stalls, her keen eyes darting between Clara and Lionel. Canon Hargreaves, overseeing the rehearsal, seemed distracted, his gaze fixed on the empty crypt entrance below. Poirot approached Clara during a pause, his manner disarming. "Mademoiselle Wren, your music is exquisite, yet I sense a disquiet in your playing. Did Brother Thomas, perhaps, share concerns about the cathedral that troubled you?" Clara's hands froze on the keys, her face paling. He spoke of the relic's safety, Monsieur Poirot. He feared they were at risk, but he never said from whom." Her voice wavered, and she glanced toward Lionel, a fleeting look Poirot did not miss. Turning to Drake, Poirot adopted a conversational tone. "Monsieur Drake, your generosity to the choir is well known. Did Brother Thomas ever question the provenance of your donations?" Drake's florid cheeks reddened further. "Question me? That monk was a busybody, always scribbling in his ledgers. I give to the cathedral out of duty, not to be interrogated." His bluster rang hollow, and Poirot noted the nervous tug at his cufflinks. Evelyn Marwood, overhearing, interjected with a sharp laugh. "Thomas was a thorn in everyone's side, Monsieur Poirot. He accused Lionel of using the cathedral's accounts to hide his shady dealings. Not that I care. Thomas was no saint himself." Her words dripped with disdain, but Poirot caught a flicker of unease in her posture, as if she regretted her candor. The rehearsal resumed, but Poirot's mind was elsewhere, piecing together the fragments. He excused himself to visit Brother Thomas's quarters, a sparse cell tucked behind the sacristy. There, among dusty tomes and relic inventories, he found a hidden ledger, its pages filled with cryptic entries. Sums of money linked to Lionel's firm, marked with initials E.M. and C.W. alongside. "Most curious," Poirot murmured. "A web of finance, woven in sacred halls." Hastings, rummaging through Clara's music satchel nearby, let out a low whistle. "Poirot, look at this." He held up a torn piece of sheet music, the margin scrawled with the now familiar phrase, "The saint's blood will spill." The ink was fresh, the handwriting hurried but precise. Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Aha, Hastings, the plot thickens. This phrase, it haunts us. Yet it is not Clara's hand, I think. Someone wishes us to look her way." He tucked the paper into his waistcoat, his mind racing. Was Clara a pawn or a player in this deadly game? Returning to the choir, Poirot observed the rehearsal's end. Clara lingered at the organ, her fingers tracing the keys absently. Lionel hurried out, muttering about a meeting, while Evelyn watched him go with a calculating stare. Poirot approached Canon Hargreaves, who was tidying hymnals. "Canon, these ledgers of Thomas's, did he share their contents with you?" Hargreaves sighed, his hands trembling. "He hinted at irregularities, Monsieur Poirot, but I urged him to focus on his duties. I fear I failed him." His voice broke, and Poirot patted his arm gently, though his mind noted the canon's reticence. As they left the chancel, Hastings muttered, "Everyone's hiding something, Poirot. Clara's jumpy, Drake's defensive, and Evelyn's got a tongue like a viper. Even the canon seems uneasy. What's the thread?" Poirot's fingers steepled. "The thread, Hastings, is control. Someone sought to silence Thomas, not for the vial alone, but for what he knew. The ledger, the whispers, the sheet music, these are pieces of a puzzle, but the picture is not yet clear. Outside, the cathedral's bells tolled noon, their resonance a reminder of time's relentless march." Poirot paused, his gaze lifting to the dome. "The choir sings of mercy, but here mercy was denied. We must find the discord, Hastings, and bring harmony to this tragedy." Chapter 5. The Widow's Tale. The October drizzle painted London streets with a somber sheen as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings stepped into the cozy warmth of a small cafe near St. Paul's Cathedral. The scent of fresh scones and brewing tea mingled with the faint tang of wet wool from their overcoats. Poirot, ever meticulous, adjusted his hat on the stand and chose a corner table, its polished surface reflecting the cafe's soft lamplight. His purpose was singular, to probe the sharp-tongued Mrs. Evelyn Marwood, whose disdain for Brother Thomas had been as pointed as the dagger that ended his life. Hastings, settling into his chair, murmured, "Poirot, why Evelyn? She's prickly as a hedgehog, but does she strike you as a killer?" Poirot's green eyes twinkled. "Mon ami, the sharpest thorns often hide the deepest wounds. Madame Marwood's bitterness is a clue in itself. We shall see what lies beneath her armor." Evelyn arrived promptly, her black dress as severe as ever, her posture rigid as she took her seat. The faint scent of lavender wafted from her, a detail that set Poirot's mind alight, recalling the crypt's lingering aroma. He ordered tea with his usual flourish, then leaned forward, his voice velvet smooth. "Madame, you spoke of Brother Thomas as a meddler. I am curious, what did he meddle in that so offended you?" Evelyn's lips tightened, her eyes narrowing like a cat's. "You're a persistent little man, Monsieur Poirot. Thomas was a sanctimonious pest, always prying into private matters. He had a knack for digging up dirt and waving it about like a holy relic." Poirot sipped his tea, his gaze unwavering. "And what dirt, pray, did he uncover about you?" Her fingers tightened around her teacup, the porcelain clinking faintly. "If you must know, he found letters, old letters from a liaison in my youth, before my marriage, scandalous by his standards. He threatened to expose me to the Cathedral Council unless I donated my late husband's estate to St. Paul's. Blackmail, plain and simple." Hastings gasped, but Poirot remained impassive. "Blackmail, madame? A grave accusation. Did you comply?" Evelyn's laugh was brittle. "I told him to go to the devil. My husband's money is mine, and I'll not be bullied by a monk with delusions of righteousness." She leaned back, her composure regained, but Poirot noted the slight tremor in her hand. "And where were you, madame, when Brother Thomas met his end?" Poirot asked, his tone deceptively mild. "In the choir stalls, as I said. she snapped. "I heard the scream like everyone else. But I was in the crypt earlier that day, searching for those wretched letters. Thomas kept them in a locked box, but I couldn't find it." Her eyes flicked away, and Poirot's mind seized on the admission. "Most interesting," he said softly. "And this lavender scent you wear, did you wear it then, in the crypt?" Evelyn frowned, caught off guard. "I suppose so. It's my usual perfume. Why does it matter?" Poirot did not answer, his thoughts racing. The lavender in the crypt, so distinct, now tied to Evelyn. But was it too convenient a clue? He shifted tack. "Did you see anyone else near the crypt that day? A cloaked figure, perhaps?" Her eyes widened briefly, then narrowed. "No cloaked figures, Monsieur Poirot. Just the usual cathedral riffraff. Clara scurrying about, Lionel strutting like a peacock. If you want suspects, look to them." As Evelyn departed, her lavender scent lingering, Poirot leaned back, his fingers steepled. "Hastings, the widow's tale is a tapestry of truth and evasion. She admits to blackmail, to searching the crypt, yet denies the murder. The lavender, it is a thread that binds her to the scene, yet it feels staged." Hastings frowned. "Staged? You think someone planted her perfume?" "Perhaps," Poirot mused. "Or perhaps Madame Marwood is not as clever as she believes." Their conversation was interrupted by Inspector Japp, who burst into the café, his coat dripping. "Poirot, we've got something. That missing vial. It's turned up, hidden in the organ loft, wrapped in a cloth. Looks like Clara Wren's handiwork. She's the only one up there regularly." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "The organ loft, you say? Most curious. The vial returns, yet the murder remains unsolved. This is no simple theft, Inspector. The vial is a distraction, a prop in a larger drama." Back at St. Paul's, Poirot ascended to the organ loft, a cramped space filled with sheet music and the organ's towering pipes. The vial, a small glass tube with a dark, congealed substance inside, lay in a dusty corner, wrapped in a plain cloth. Poirot examined it without touching, noting its unremarkable appearance. "Why hide it here, so easily found?" he murmured. "Unless someone wished it to be found, to point the finger at Mademoiselle Wren." Hastings scratched his head. "But why frame Clara? She's just a shy organist, isn't she?" Poirot's mustache twitched. "Shy, perhaps, but not without secrets. The sheet music with the cryptic phrase, 'the vial in her domain,' these are arrows aimed at her heart, yet I suspect she is not the archer." As they descended, Poirot's mind churned. Evelyn's blackmail, the lavender scent, the vial's convenient return, each piece fit, yet the puzzle was incomplete. "Hastings," he said, "we must look beyond the surface. The widow's tale reveals much, but it conceals more. Someone in St. Paul's plays a dangerous game, and we must uncover the rules before the next move." The cathedral loomed outside, its dome a silent witness to the secrets within. Poirot's gray cells hummed, sensing the truth drawing closer, hidden in the interplay of motives and misdirection. Chapter 6. The Benefactor's Burden. The late afternoon light filtered through the high windows of St. Paul's Cathedral, casting long shadows across the nave's polished floor. Hercule Poirot stood near the great west door, his small figure dwarfed by the cathedral's grandeur, yet his presence commanded attention. His cane rested lightly in his hand, and his green eyes scanned the scene with the precision of a watchmaker. Captain Hastings, ever loyal, fidgeted beside him, his brow furrowed. "Poirot, we're running in circles. The vial's back. Evelyn's got a motive. Clara's in the frame. Where do we go from here?" Poirot's mustache twitched with a faint smile. "Mon ami, when the path seems circular, one must step off it to see the pattern. Monsieur Drake, the benefactor, carries a burden heavier than his purse. Let us lighten it with questions." Lionel Drake was found in the cathedral's library, a quiet chamber lined with ancient tomes and the faint scent of leather. He sat at a table, poring over a ledger, his florid face etched with strain. At Poirot's approach, he snapped the book shut, his smile forced. "Monsieur Poirot, I'm just checking the restoration funds. Tragic business, this murder, but the cathedral's work goes on." Poirot settled into a chair, his movements deliberate. "Indeed, Monsieur Drake, your generosity is a pillar of St. Paul's. Yet I wonder, did Brother Thomas approve of how your funds were used?" Drake's eyes flickered, his hand tightening on the ledger. "Thomas? He was grateful, I'm sure. Always fussing over his relics, not my accounts." His voice carried a false heartiness, and Poirot noted the bead of sweat on his temple. "Curious, then," Poirot said softly, "that his ledger, found in his cell, notes irregularities in your donations, sums transferred, then diverted, with initials that suggest complications. Did he confront you, perhaps?" Drake's face reddened, his bluster faltering. "Confront me? The cheek of it. Yes, he asked questions, impertinent ones, said my firm's money wasn't clean. Threatened to tell the council unless I increased my contributions. Blackmail, that's what it was." He pounded the table, then caught himself, his eyes darting to the door. Poirot's fingers steepled. "Blackmail, you say? Most interesting. And where were you, monsieur, when Thomas met his end?" "Outside, as I told Jap," Drake snapped. "Needed air, stuffy in here during evensong. I didn't see anything, and I certainly didn't stab the man." Poirot nodded, his expression unreadable. "Merci, Monsieur Drake. Your candor is illuminating." As Drake huffed and returned to his ledger, Poirot murmured to Hastings, "The man protests too much, non? His burden is not only guilt, but fear of what Thomas knew." Leaving the library, Poirot sought out Canon Hargreaves, who was cataloguing hymnals in the sacristy. "Canon, these financial irregularities. Did Thomas share his concerns with you?" Hargreaves sighed, his hands trembling. "He mentioned discrepancies, yes, but I thought it a misunderstanding. Lionel's donations are vital to our restoration. I urged Thomas to focus on his relics, not accounts." His voice held a note of regret, and Poirot marked it. Their next stop was the cathedral's office, where Poirot examined the official accounts with Jap's permission. The ledgers confirmed Thomas's notes. Sums from Drake's firm appeared inflated, with funds redirected to obscure accounts. One entry bore the initials C.W. Clara Wren? Poirot's mind whirred. "A pattern emerges, Hastings, but it is incomplete. Money moves like water, but where does it flow?" As they returned to the nave, a verger approached, his face anxious. "Monsieur Poirot, Mr. Gibbs, the groundskeeper, says he's remembered something. Wants to speak with you." Gibbs awaited them near the cathedral gardens, his broom idle. "It's about that cloaked figure I saw," he said, his voice low. "The night before the murder, I saw Thomas meeting someone in the gardens, late after Vespers. Couldn't see who, but they were arguing, voices raised. Thomas looked proper, shaken after." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "A meeting, you say?" "Most valuable, Monsieur Gibbs. Did you hear what was said?" Gibbs shook his head. "Too far off, sir, but it wasn't friendly, that's sure." Back in the nave, Poirot organized a reenactment of the evensong, directing the suspects to their claimed positions. Clara at the organ loft, Drake near the west door, Evelyn in the choir stalls. As the choir sang a practice hymn, Poirot moved silently, testing sight lines and timings. Clara's claim of playing throughout the service faltered. No one recalled hearing the organ consistently, and her path to the crypt was unblocked. Drake's exit to the west door was unwitnessed, and Evelyn's place in the stalls offered a clear view of the crypt stairs. "The alibis, they crumble like old stone," Poirot murmured. Hastings, watching the reenactment, whispered, "Poirot, Clara's looking guilty as sin. The vial in her loft, her shaky story. Could she be the one?" Poirot shook his head. "Non, Hastings. The clues point to her, yet they are too neat, too deliberate. Someone weaves a net to trap her, but the true killer remains in shadow." As the hymn faded, Poirot stood in the nave, the cathedral's vastness pressing around him. The benefactor's burden is clear, money and secrets, but the cloaked figure, the argument in the gardens, these are keys to the lock. We are close, mon ami, to the heart of this tragedy. Chapter 7. The Saint's Revelation. The whispering gallery of St. Paul's Cathedral, high above the nave, was bathed in the soft glow of evening lamps, its curved walls a silent chorus of stone. Hercule Poirot stood at its center, his small figure commanding the space like a conductor before a symphony. The suspects, Miss Clara Wren, Mr. Lionel Drake, Mrs. Evelyn, Marwood, and Canon Hargreaves, stood along the balustrade, their faces a mix of apprehension and defiance. Captain Hastings at Poirot's side whispered, "I say, Poirot, this feels like a grand finale. Have you cracked it?" Poirot's green eyes gleamed, his mustache twitching with quiet satisfaction. "Mon ami, the truth, it is like the whispers of this gallery, elusive but clear when one listens with care. Mesdames et messieurs, we gather to unveil the killer of Brother Thomas." The air grew taut, the suspect's gazes darting. Poirot began, his voice steady, each word precise. The murder in the crypt was no simple theft, though the missing vial suggested it. The dagger, the lavender scent, the whispers, all were threads in a tapestry of deception. Let us unravel it. He turned to Clara, her pale face framed by the organ's distant pipes below. "Mademoiselle Wren, you were placed at the heart of suspicion. The vial, found in your loft, the sheet music with its cryptic phrase, these pointed to you, yet they were too convenient, non? A frame, crafted with care." Clara's hands trembled, her voice a whisper. "I didn't kill him, Monsieur Poirot, I swear it." Poirot nodded. "I believe you, mademoiselle, but you knew more than you said. You transcribed Thomas's notes, oui? You learned of his blackmail, of Madame Marwood's scandal, of Monsieur Drake's financial sins. You feared for the cathedral's sanctity." Clara's eyes widened, but she said nothing, her silence a confession. Poirot pivoted to Evelyn, whose sharp features were set in a mask of disdain. "Madame Marwood, your lavender perfume marked the crypt, a clue too perfect. You admitted to searching for letters Thomas held against you, but the scent was not yours alone, was it?" Evelyn's lips parted, then closed. "I told you, I wear lavender daily. If it was in the crypt, it's no surprise." "Non," Poirot said sharply. "The bottle in your purse was tampered with, its seal broken. Someone used it to cast suspicion on you." He turned to Lionel Drake, whose florid face glistened with sweat. Monsieur Drake, your donations hid a darker truth, money laundered through the cathedral's accounts. Thomas threatened to expose you, demanding more. But you did not kill him. Your fear is real, but your hands are clean. Drake exhaled, his relief palpable, but Poirot's gaze returned to Clara. The whispers, mademoiselle, were yours. You spoke the warning. The saint's blood will spill, hoping to frighten Thomas into ceasing his schemes. You believed the vial, a sacred relic, was at risk, destined for a collector's hands. You confronted him in the crypt, oui? Clara's eyes filled with tears, her voice breaking. I only wanted to protect the cathedral. Thomas was selling the vial. He told me a buyer was coming. I begged him to stop, but he laughed, said it was worthless. I pushed him, and he fell against the dagger I'd grabbed to show him I meant it. It was an accident. The gallery fell silent, the truth echoing like a whisper along the walls. Evelyn's face softened, almost pitying. Drake muttered under his breath. Canon Hargreaves clasped his hands, his eyes downcast. Poirot continued, his tone gentle but firm. The vial's theft was a ruse, mademoiselle. You hid it in the loft to divert suspicion, but your panic betrayed you. The lavender taken from Madame Marwood's bottle was meant to point to her. The sheet music, your own, was a misstep, its phrase a cry from your heart. Inspector Japp, standing near the stairs, stepped forward. That's enough, Miss Wren. You'll come with me. Clara nodded, sobbing softly as a constable led her away. Poirot turned to the others. The cathedral's sanctity was her motive, but fanaticism is a dangerous flame. Monsieur Drake, your accounts will face scrutiny. Madame Marwood, your secrets are safe, but your silence aided this tragedy. Canon, your trust in Thomas was misplaced, but your heart is pure. As the group dispersed, Hastings shook his head. Poor Clara. She meant to save the cathedral, but she lost herself. Poirot gazed at the dome, its vastness a mirror to his thoughts. The heart, Hastings, can deceive as much as it loves. The whispers of St. Paul's are silent now, and the truth shines clear. Let us leave this sacred place to its peace.